Do you want to build a Thundercage that absolutely shreds with insane crits? Then get ready. What's going on, guys? It's your boy Worthy Prince coming at you with another first Descendant video, and in today's video, guys, I'm going to be going over my updated build for the Thundercage, the SMG that causes the electric explosions in the first Descendant. Now, my previous build was a pretty good guide with a solid Thundercage. However, over the last week or so, I've been tinkering with it and I've now got it to the absolute optimal settings. I've tested out a whole bunch of builds and I'm telling you guys, this is the best one. So build this and you will shred your enemies. Now, I know you've looked at the thumbnail and thought, hang on a minute, 2 billion damage, what? And yeah, we did. We managed to fight some enemies, and the highest amount of damage we had outputted from an electric explosion from the Thundercage was 2 billion damage. And you're probably thinking, how the heck did you do 2 billion damage? Well, stay tuned because I'm going to explain exactly how that happened inside this video. Now, to start off with, I'm going to very quickly go over the modules. I'm not going to bore you down with module talk, but let's just quickly do it so I can show you what's changed from the last build to this build, okay? Let's dive in and look at my Thundercage. Here it is in all its glory. Check it out. So we've changed a few things. I took out a weak point damage mod. I took out another one of the purple mods. I think it was consume magazines came out as well for the reload time modifier. We got rid of that. And I also think I took out fatal critical as well, which was the extra bit of firearm critical hit damage and fire 1% critical hit rate. That one's now gone. So what did I put into the gun that I changed it over with? Well, I put concentration priority in, which is a massive 120% firearm critical hit damage at the expense of a little bit longer in our reload time, but you don't really notice it too much, so it's okay. I put concentrate support ammo, giving us some extra rounds inside our magazine and a nice amount of extra firearm critical hit damage. And I also put in a chill enhancement because this is going to add some really nice attack to our weapon. Now, one thing I will say, guys, is when you put a mod in like chill enhancement, it's not going to actually affect the DPS. Don't look at DPS as a value to tell you how good your build is, because I've seen builds that are over 500. I've seen Thundercage builds that are over 600,000 DPS and they hit like a wet noodle. They're not very good at all. Why? Because they've got a high DPS, because most likely the person's done the build and put a whole bunch of extra ammo in the clip and increase the fire rate a bit more maybe, and therefore because there's more bullets coming out, the game recognizes it that it's doing more DPS. Yeah, okay, but I can tell you now that is not the case. The chill enhancement doesn't add any DPS to this gun when you put it on, but the chill enhancement here on this gun I've got set up is going to do about 20 to 21,000, around that area, extra damage per bullet to the enemy it hits with this attribute damage. It's extremely really powerful, and you're going to want that on this build, okay? So I wanted to go through that just to explain that yes, it's 483 DPS. I don't want you to look at another build and think, oh well, this is 600,000 DPS, that's going to be better. No, it doesn't work like that. I tested a whole bunch of builds out, higher and lower DPS, and where I've got it now, I've hit a sweet spot with this gun. I really have, guys. It's beautiful. So let's continue. That's how the mods are looking. Now, one thing I will say, guys, is if we jump back over to these stats here, you can see that this gun, the Thundercage, you want to build into mostly firearm critical hit damage, because that's what's got a high multiplier on this, 6.416x. And as you can see, I've got a 30.7% firearm critical hit rate. So 1 in 3 of my bullets are technically going to crit. And that's a lot of crits in a magazine of 33 bullets. Also, don't sleep on the fact that we've got a little bit of weak point damage, although I wouldn't build into it too heavily because it's only 1.44 where I'm at right now, which is why we took out mods like this one over here, weak point sight. We don't need that. It's not going to make much of a difference whatsoever. So we just stick with the actual, stick with the critical hit damage and the critical hit rate from the firearm damage. That's what you want to stick with this gun. Now, coming out of this, also, and something else you need to mention is the rolls I got on the front of this. Not only have we got the chill damage going on, but we've also got fire damage going on as well. So I've got fire attack here too. So I have the fire attack and the chill attack. We've got firearm critical hit rate here. We've got firearm attack and some weak point damage. Not a lot of weak point damage, but I'm really happy to have it because it's going to help out when we attack the head or any weak point on an enemy. it's going to help us get some higher crits. And it really does. The damage this thing does is kind of lethal. Okay, so now we've got the build kind of sorted out. How much damage does this gun do? Well, we've got this destroyer here that's going to demonstrate that for us. So we're going to go ahead and just shoot in the mid region. This is not a weak point area. We're just going to take a look at what kind of crit numbers we're getting with this gun. Let's have a look. Now, as you can see, we're getting around about 183,000 on the crit numbers, which is extremely good for just a mid-region hit. 183,000 per bullet, and loads of them procced. But if we just move up a little bit and go for a weak spot like the head, take a look at how much the damage goes up to now. Multiple 355,000 crits into her head. So yeah, really, really good damage on single target damage. Those are some really impressive crit numbers for the Thundercage. So now I'm going to go through the electric explosion element of this build. It's the special ability that the Thundercage has. Now, with this build that we've got here, the electric explosions have gone to another level, so get ready, because this is kind of insane. My initial interpretation of the electric explosions was quite simple. You know, I thought, okay, so if you look here, electric shockwave is the ability. When you kill an enemy, it discharges an electric shockwave. Okay, great. And as you can see, we've leveled this up with the duplicate guns. It's at max. We've got the no debuff on our reload, which is good. Trigger rate 100%. Every time we hit an enemy, it procs, and there's a radius of 5 meters. Now, this is the interesting part, which is the damage. You can see there it says additional damage is firearm damage times 133%. Yeah, it seems pretty straightforward, doesn't it? So my interpretation was, okay, let's say a group of enemies are coming towards me, a bit like this right here. Okay, so if I hit one of these enemies and I kill them, an electric discharge is going to come out. And let's say, for example, the amount of damage I'd done to that first enemy was 100,000 damage. Okay, that's just as an example. Times that by 133%, so that's going to be what, 233,000. That's what all these enemies are going to get hit with, 233,000. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess that's kind of how it works, but it scales. And the question is, how does it scale? Well, it scales with every single enemy it hits. The number of enemies it hits determines how much it's going to scale. Now, if you're still not with me, let me just explain that in a bit more detail. If the first enemy that gets hit with the shockwave gets hit with, say, 230,000, because that would be the 100k times 133%, the first enemy, let's say this guy here, right here, gets hit with 230. Well, the second enemy here, his damage that he takes is not going to be based off the first enemy that I hit. The damage he takes is going to be based off the damage that guy took. So instead of timesing 133% by 100,000, we're going to times it by 230,000, and so on and so forth as we go around the enemies. So it acts like a chain reaction. The more enemies that the actual initial shockwave hit, the higher the number goes. So if you've got a group of enemies like this, you can probably pull off a pretty good number if the shockwave hits everyone. Let's hit this one in the middle and see what happens. Now you can see here the shockwave has now left the initial target because it's now died, and the kill shot is highlighted in yellow, 55,337. It's a standard hit, it's not a critical hit. If you take a look at the subsequent white numbers, each white number represents a hit on the surrounding enemies. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's 8 lots of white numbers for 8 enemies, and the one in the middle is the 9th, which is the one we've killed. Now the numbers gradually increase from 55,000 on the initial hit all the way up to 541,778, which is pretty good stuff. But this is all based off of a standard 55k hit. How much damage can this Thundercage build get up to if we actually crit on the first enemy we killed? Let's continue. What happens if we actually crit on that one in the middle? Well, here's a clip of me critting on the one in the middle and then the subsequent shockwave coming out. Now this time we're going to crit on this middle enemy, and now we're going to show you the real power that this Thundercage can do. So here comes the crit, and You can see from this hit that the initial damage crit with a 331,000 damage from the bullet, 3,317 from the fire damage, and almost 20,000 from the chill damage that we added onto the gun build. Now, because we crit, the numbers start to ramp up much higher than before, and you can see on the 9th enemy, we managed to hit an explosion of 3,476,158, which is absolutely awesome. So I've shown you how this build has been upgraded, the really amazing crits it's putting out, and showing you well over 3 million damage from lightning explosions from the gun. But 3 million is not 2 billion. So how on earth did we do 2 billion damage with the Thundercage? Well, I got a clip I'm going to share with you, and now I've explained to you how this all works with the chain reaction effect and the multiplications going up as it hits more enemies. This should make a lot more sense. Let's roll that clip. So what's happening here is I'm standing on top of a building and my friend is down below doing a mission, and he's in the process of trying to get a few enemies to follow him outside this tunnel so I can walk forward and shoot them with my Thundercage, create an explosion, and see how much damage we can actually ramp this up to. So without further ado, guys, let's walk forward and greet this very small group of enemies with my Thundercage. Enough talking, let's get it.
Say hello to my little friend!
So as you can see, all the white numbers started coming up because the explosion went across that big group of enemies there. And the final number we can see on the right hand side is 2,013,786,110. An absolutely insane amount of damage to come off of the Thundercage explosion ability. Absolutely amazing. So I really love this gun. I'm looking forward to maybe trying to fight in some more enemies, try and get a bigger group of enemies together to see how much we can take this up. But that was an absolutely insane amount of damage to pull off here. Yes, we did kind of group and herd these enemies together to see how much we could really push it. And we never expected to hit 2 billion. Guys, I hope you really enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe for more First Descendant content. And I will catch you in the next one. Guys, it's been a pleasure. Enjoy your Thundercage build. Most importantly, stay safe, everyone. And of course, peace out.